Hi, Dean Crap from C2 Solutions here. Today I'm not going to talk to you about another cloud app or another technology and show you how to use it. Today I want to talk to you about the principles behind systemizing and automating your business and a kind of secret I've developed over many years and how I approach it. And I want to share that with you today. It's a really high level principle, very easy to understand and very easy to apply. But if you use it and look at your business in this way, you start to evaluate the work you're doing differently and think about how you can change what you're doing. So it's really, really powerful, and today I'm going to share that with you. In the course of it, I'm also going to help you understand the difference between systemizing and automating and what they are, but also help you understand the evolution that's been occurring in businesses over the last few decades because of technology and the change that is occurring and why it's so important that you get involved and start thinking about this for your business as well. So let's get started and I'll show you how it works. Okay, when we talk about systemizing and automating your business, there's largely three main areas you want to look at when you're focusing on your own business. And that's, one is the work inputs, okay, how the work's coming in. The second is the main body where the work gets done, okay, and then the work outputs. In any part of your business, if you're experiencing issues, you'll find it in one of these three things or the interface between one of these three things. But it's a high level principle that will allow you to start to understand what's going on, and you can use it to look at your business. So if typically in a traditional sense, the input's coming in here with some kind of paper, you know, it might be handwritten email or piece of paper letter someone sends you. But you can see in this sense here, they've tried to start to structure the input. This is an attempt at structuring the input to systemize it in some way, okay? And then the work gets done, and then on the output you get paper again, usually more and more paper. The problem in the traditional sense is as this scales, this problem here starts to compound. Now, for hundreds of years, even thousands of years, we've approached this with a manual labor. We throw people at the problem to try to do the work. Okay, it's only really since the advent of computers we've started to use software to start to do some of the work and improve the way this is occurring, okay? Now, in many businesses, as they try to grow, they do a lot of things quite organically. They'll come up with ideas and how to approach things in the best way they know how. And not the best way it can be done, it's just the best way they know how to get the job done. And typically, unfortunately, and this is obviously not being derogatory, but you get kind of garbage inputs coming in. They accept any way the information comes in, and then it's up to the person in here to try and do the work as best they can and then output it. Now what happens is, as you can see kind of diagrammatically here, the person doing the work gets munched up by the work. Okay, they're under the pressure of it, and it's quite stressful. But what you're relying on is the expertise of the person here to do the work, because there's no real system to it. And so if the person is replaced, the outputs vary. Okay, so what happens is typically you get non-standardized outputs, and you're really trying to recruit and find the right person for the job to make sure you get consistent output at the same volume, the same level of productivity. And that's really a big catchphrase nowadays, okay? So while it may look different here, if we look back historically, this is kind of still a garbage output, okay? It's still garbage, it's just packaged slightly differently. So what this creates in the cycle for the business and for the person doing it, it creates a level of stress. So when I say for the business, I mean in the sense of the process. The process gets stressed, okay? This may be a departmental function, but you'll notice then the person doing that process gets stressed, okay? So there's quite a parallel that runs there. But the business itself will also get stressed. So as this starts to scale, if there's not a system in place here, it can't handle the load, okay? And so the cycle itself starts to get stressed, and it creates a compounding effect. If you look at any businesses that aren't well systemized, as they scale, you'll see an increasing level of stress occurring not only in the workers but also in the business itself in trying to produce the outputs. So here's just a bit of a breakdown of what's going on here. You have a painful client experience on the input, okay? The client has to do a lot of work to interface with the business is not really easy. Okay, there's increased manual input for the client to do that, and there's generally it's non-structured, so you get misinformation. Okay, so without that, there's an inability for the business to be able to systemize. Okay, for the person doing the work, they're kind of receiving inputs that are non-structured and in a random order. There's no policies or structure around it. So the manual labor to then get it into and do work on it is increased. Okay, so there's increased manual labor. The productivity in comparison to what I'll show you in a little bit is generally low. The person has to do more work to produce a similar level of output. And so the quality is actually quite low as well. The variances are high. And again, you're reliant on that person. There's excessive communication. And the reason this occurs is because there's missed information. So the excessive communication, you'll see it in a business between these two steps here. People having to go from this step back to the person or the client that supplied the information. If you see a lot of repetition here occurring between the two, it's generally because the information is not structured right on the inputs. It results in a lot of excessive communication. This is a silent killer in a business. A lot of people don't notice it, but it really creates a big problem in being able to get efficiency in a business. Generally, and which is quite obvious, people are more stressed and there's bad morale in this type of work environment. It can turn quite toxic. On the outputs, the product is generally poorer. There's a higher variation in the product itself, delivery timeframes, the agility of being able to adapt the product, and also the variances in what the client receives. Again, because it's dependent on the person. Hence, your lower margins and less profit. And that's because a lot of the cost is absorbed in this section. So by the time you get to here, your margins are really low and there's less profit. You have an increase in unhappy customers because of the whole cycle. People not getting back to you, they forget to ship something, they don't credit you the money, missed payments, bad invoicing. It really costs you a lot of money. This also creates, and this is the big bit, an inefficiency downstream. If you've got bad outputs coming out here, if this is leading on to another person within your business, then they're also then going to be inefficient because their inputs are messy. Okay, so you're just kind of compounding the problem in that environment. So what you want to start to do is structure the inputs a lot better. You want to look at how the inputs are coming in and create a much more standardized fashion for them to coming in. The person then in the middle has a better ability to be productive. They you can see in this diagram, even diagrammatically, they're working on the problem. They're working to a system. They have structured inputs. They get the work. They have a particular way they're meant to do it, and it pushes out. The advantage to the business is that you're not reliant on the expertise so much of the person here. You can then have tens or hundreds of people working on this in the same way. So scalability goes up. So the outputs again become more structured and more available to the next person downstream in the process. Okay, so if you look at this, the client experience is usually easier. And the reason for that is because structured inputs, they'll be using online forms or structured forms. It gathers the information in a particular way to make it easier for the person, the client, or even the person upstream to interface with whatever is doing the work. There's decreased manual input. Okay, so they'll generally only have to put things in once, and they're not having to go and fill out 3 or 4 forms to get something done. We all know the kind of typical thing that happens and the gripe we have with the government and the manual overhead that occurs, and you'll see a lot of bad inputs coming in those types of cycles. So the information is generally better. You have better, more structured information, and this gives you the ability to systemize. Okay, so there's a real big gain in that. In the middle sense here, there's reduced manual input because the information is coming through structured, or even in a systemized way. It reduces the manual labor required in entering it into whatever system you're using, but also reduced manual labor in doing the work. There's a higher productivity because of that, and the quality is generally higher because it's standardized. There's little communication because there's better information here. You'll find in this type of scenario, the worker here doesn't have to go back to where they got the input from to gather more information. And the input may be from a client or another staff member, but again, you'll see them not having to go back multiple times. Again, a real silent killer there. If you can reduce that communication, it's a big gain for a business. Generally, obviously, a large part of this is also down to leadership in the business, but in a systemized business, you'll get happier people and better morale. People feel more productive. The work outputs, you get a great product, okay, more consistently, faster, better agility in being able to vary and grow the product over time. There's better margins and better profit because you've reduced all the overheads that occur in here. Happier customers, they get better support, better product, less failures, all those types of things. And there's an efficiency downstream because of the person where this work is going to, their inputs are more structured. So if you're in a team, someone's outputting work, the person downstream has more efficiency because their inputs are better organized. If you start to focus on documenting all these things, if you read like the E-Myth and Michael Gerber and those books, a lot of them focus on systemizing your business. And when you start to do this, you can start to document this down. It becomes standardized. It's a standardized way of working. This is really important also for onboarding new employees. You say, here's the way we work. Here's our manuals. Here's what we do. But it also gives you scalability, your ability to be able to produce this product in high volume without the business and the process getting stressed and without the people getting stressed becomes possible. Okay, so this is what systemizing the work is all about. Now, the advent of cloud computing has taken this to a new level. Okay, and this is really the evolution that's occurring in the last several years, is the information is coming in digitally, and a lot of it is becoming perfectly structured from the client. The client loves using the interface, they want to get on and use it, and they'll put in the information, and you get everything you need to be able to then process it. Okay, so the inputs are really organized electronically, but the work being done, there's cloud solutions that niche and really focus on doing their thing really well. So it's possible to completely automate certain aspects of your business, or have a nice cloud solution that greatly reduces the manual labor of the person doing the work. The other benefit is the outputs are much more structured, so they can easily be interfaced with another digital device, so you can use it on your smartphone, or another cloud solution. So you can start to chain cloud solutions together to create a modularized business that can do more work in less time. Okay, and this is the way the world's going now. So for an example of that is you could have a billing system. Okay, it takes its inputs, the billing system does work, and it outputs that out to Xero finance system. Now Xero takes those inputs, you may have your worker doing something in Xero, and then they output that and it produces the invoice, or can even send automated reminders. So you can see the volume of work in that cycle is greatly reduced. Okay, so from the client's perspective, they have what I kind of coined here, the super client experience. It's very easy. There's, in some circumstances, there's no manual input. You literally sign up, it'll use your credentials that you've already registered in Google or something like that. Okay, and away you go. You'll see that sometimes when you're signing up for new products. You don't even have to enter your information, it's already done. You did it somewhere else, okay? Or the client, what they have to input is very minimal. And hence you get perfect information. The information coming into your system is perfectly in the way it needs it to operate. So there's no manual input for the work to require, very little. What this does, and this is really powerful, it gives you the ability to automate. Okay, this inputs, when you start to accept it in this way, it gives you the impetus to start to automate it. So there's little or no manual labor. Now, in some sense, when you can completely automate it, there's no manual labor. Sometimes there may be just a little bit of manual labor, but it's greatly reduced. So there's super productivity and really great quality that comes out of this. Product is, you can output tens of thousands of them in a day, and your quality is spot on every time, because the emails coming out and the product being delivered is perfect every time. There's little or no communication required back up the chain because it's coming in perfectly. You don't have to go back and say, oh, sorry, we missed your email, or we missed this, you didn't put it in the right format, those types of things. Again, there's an increase in morale in the business, happy people, better morale. You're able to do some really wonderful things out in the environment, so people really like that. As an end result, you get a fantastic product, okay, perfect every time, very little issues, and you're able to then focus more on growing the business, scaling the business, your sales, those types of things, okay? So, or the customer support, the thing that wraps around the product to make it better than your competitors. Your margins will be higher and or a lot more profit because you basically squeezed all of the overheads out of this aspect here, okay? Much happier customers, okay? They get it basically instantly. If you look at the world now, it's all instant. On-demand TV and movies, it's all instant. And allows for automation downstream, okay? So that's another big thing is once you do work this way, the next thing down the stream can also automate, okay? So really, really powerful in that sense. What's interesting is when you start to look at the micro and macro level of your business, you may look at one person or one system that is occurring and systemize it. You actually create standard inputs, standardize how the work is done, and you standardize the output. Okay, and you systemize one aspect of the business, but then because it's standardized here, you might then be able to then use that as an input to automate the next piece. And so that may go into a cloud solution or some other software that then automates the next part. Okay, so if you do this, you start to really grow the business in a new way. What this creates is if you focus continually on the business and continue to think about systemizing and automating your work, you create a cycle of innovation. This way of always looking at your work, systemizing what you can, automating out other pieces of work that don't need to be manually done. You create a process of innovation. It's a way of looking at your business and continually growing it. And I have termed this in the way I kind of refer to it as progressive growth. It's a progressive business. It's not just about innovating. It's not just about being proactive. It's not just about forward thinking. It's growth on growth. You're being progressive in the way you're evolving. So later, this thing you systemized here, you may automate that on the next step. And this bit you automated here, in 3 years' time, there may be a better piece of software that you then go and automate that as well, okay? So the progressive business, if you're approaching like this, you'll continually evolve and you'll get increasing scale. So this is just a quick overview to wrap it up that shows you the effects of what occurs. When you do this, what happens is your productivity increases, your efficiency increases, you're able to scale much faster, your quality and your product and the wraparound to your product increases, but also your agility, your speed to market, how fast you can flex and change increases. And because you've taken out a lot of that overhead, your margin increases and so does your profit. Not just from reducing the overheads, but because of the scalability as well. On the upside, as you do that at the same time, this is compounding, this is what's great about it, you reduce the amount of labor required in doing the work. Now, if you're reducing the amount of labor and people can do more with less, then naturally your wages are going to decrease. What also decreases is the stress, not just in the people, but in the function in the business itself. The stress on the business as it grows is reduced. Okay, so we see a compounding effect not only in the employees and the level of stress they deal with how rapidly the business is growing, but a decrease in the stress in the function of the business as it copes with that growth. There's a decrease in the efficiency, or you should say an inefficiency, a decrease in the inefficiencies that occur, I should say, wording that better, and the overhead, the laborious overhead that occurs in the business is also reduced, okay? So if we go all the way back to the beginning, what you just need to think about is these 3 large steps. Think about the work inputs, think about how the work is done, and think about the output. And if you look at anything that's going on in your business, start to focus on those things, see where the pain is occurring, and then go, is that happening in the inputs? Is that happening on the work, or is it happening on the outputs? And then focus on fixing those things. As you do that, you'll start to shift into systemization and increasingly over time into automation as well. So I hope you found that helpful. So we hope you've enjoyed this principle behind how you can look at and start systemizing and automating your business. If you'd like help, please reach out to us. We'd love to assist you. If you like this video, please share it with friends and colleagues and like it to give it a bit of a boost. Additionally, if you'd like more videos like this, there'll be more coming. Be sure to subscribe. You'll find the link below or on our website. We look forward to seeing you next time.